If you missed that reaction on Paul George, you're making a mistake. What are you doing with yourself, bro? Wait, what? You're making mistakes with your life's decisions.
What the f are you doing with your time and your life?
Get yourself right. Make sure you go back, you check out the reaction. But look, we've got a banger for you today. What is good, everybody out there? Thanks again for checking in with Court Thoughts, the channel where we basically talk basketball. I'm back at it again with another detailed analysis, this time on my man, Paul George. And look, let's get straight into it. First thing that I'm going to talk about is the pocket dribble. Now, I've covered this in a bunch of videos before, and it's a really critical detail. When we're talking about the pocket dribble, we're talking about where the ball is going as a reset point or as a control point. Now, if you think about where the ball is going in a dribble, a lot of the time it's sitting right in front of you. And that's a really dangerous position for defensive reactions where people are going to be tapping and annoying at the ball. Players like LaMelo Ball and players like one of my favorites, man with the blue jersey up there, Luka Doncic, controls the ball really well by pulling the ball into his pocket. Now, why is this important? It allows you to be able to pull the ball back and retreat it, making it difficult for defenders to disrupt your flow of dribble, but then also extend the ball with your dribble. And a perfect way we can see that he's utilizing this is with the push cross. Now, what a push cross is we have the ball in front of us and we push the ball over, crossing it. The way that he does this is by cuffing the ball back and having it in the pocket. And having it in the pocket like that allows our body to move while still shielding the ball. Now, if I have the ball and the defender is really pressing up into me, the only way they can get to the ball right where it is here is they got to reach across my body, just giving us the ability to control distance and space. Defenders really want to cut down your options, and they want to do it by two ways. They want to cut down angles, shuttling you into corners where you don't want to go, into crowded space where they have assistance on the defensive end, or by distance. If I crowd up and get all up in your business, a lot of time players are going to react to this by putting their back to the defender, which really does block out your vision behind you. The critical thing that we want to focus on is by pulling the ball back and retreating the ball and then extending the ball, we can really manage that space. And then we can also use things like push cross by getting the ball in front and then start to go downhill. Now, also thinking about the benefits of having that pocket dribble, one little example that we saw was with the behind the back. A lot of the time we see behind the backs, it's sort of in this wrapping motion. Paul George put the ball into his pocket, selling a drive towards the right-hand side, went behind his body, and then sent the defender across him. So now he's able to beat the defender by using that pocket dribble in a different way that's not the push cross. Fantastic maneuver. If you're not familiar in how to do it, easy way to practice it. Stand stationary, good balance, bounce the ball, put it into that pocket, and then put it right down. Really effective maneuver. Just make sure that you don't get your hand under the ball. It's going to be a carry. You just want to have your hand behind the ball. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is lead with your chest. If we think about that pocket dribble, one of the things that it does is it allows you to lead with your chest forward and change your momentum and really sell what you're trying to do. Now, when we think about trying to drive downhill, we want to change the angle of our body. So we actually want to try and get our chest to go forward and sort of push our shoulders forward to get in a really aggressive stance. Now, if you look at guys like Kyrie Irving, one of the ways that he's so deadly and effective in getting to the basket is he's able to get his shoulder as low as your hip. It creates this really aggressive driving action, and leading with your chest by utilizing things like pocket dribble is a great way to be able to do that. But it's also a very deceptive way in being able to control and deceive what you're trying to do. We can actually see Paul George using a type of handle. I call it the pull drag. You can call it, you know, the drag back. People got a bunch of different names for it, but bro, look, it's the same thing. What this does is it's a very effective way in fooling the defender that I'm trying to go downhill. Why? Because I'm selling the drive. I'm getting down in that aggressive stance, and then I'm dragging the ball back and then stepping into my shot. It's a very fluid way in getting into your shot. If you've been watching my channel for quite some time, like I hope you have, you know how important it is to have fluidity in your motion, whether it's in dribbling or whether it's into shooting. And doing things like that pullback is really effective in creating space. Now, you can actually also see guys like Luka Doncic use this and take an extra gather step back. Paul George does do this as well. I did comment in the highlights that I was unsure whether or not there was some traveling that was happening. The NBA can be a little bit loose with some travel calls. Ain't gonna lie. Whether or not it's a travel, that's neither here nor there. Focusing on the point at hand, you want to sell that drive, pull the ball back by creating space, and allow you to control. Another way that he was leading with his chest was going to the bucket. Now, when you could see that he was going up for these big contact dunks, you could see that he was doing something that Vince Carter was an absolute god at. He would sort of dip his shoulder in like this and would lead with his hand and come up like this. Now, what does that do? It allows me to control whether or not the cylinder of the defender is going to come in. Now, you've got to be careful. A lot of times, things like that are going to get called for offensive fouls. It's a great way to still protect the ball by having it back here, similar to that pocket dribble, but up here, and attack and go down with force. Defenders, when they meet you at the hoop, they want to try and slow the ball down, and they're going to have to go straight up, and you kind of have this little bit more momentum going forward. You're naturally going to meet them at the peak of the drive, and you're going to slightly bump them. Again, you got to be careful with this because of things like offensive fouls, but whether you're leading with your chest on the dribble or on the drive, either which way, you're going to be a deadly, deadly threat, and you're gonna be a real big problem. Last thing that I'm going to talk about is slow versus go. I mentioned earlier that I'm a big fan of Luka Doncic, and one of the reasons why I mentioned this in both of my reactions, my last one more so, was his ability to change his pace in his dribble. Changing pace is a great way in fooling the defender without really having to exert a lot of energy. Now, timing and things like slow versus go is a really effective way in trying to get to the shots and scoring opportunities that you want. Now, Luka Doncic does this by really not trying to exert a lot of energy by driving really fast down to the bucket, by lulling people to sleep, but also by shifting people and making them think, oh, I'm going to drive, or no, I'm going into a drive and then pull up, and sort of jarring you and overloading you. I mentioned this recently in my Sabrina Ionescu detailed analysis that we want to overwhelm the defense, and using things like slow versus go is a great way to do this. Change your pace. Don't be predictable. If you're going at one speed, I really only have to change your speed. You have to know how to play like that, and a lot of players may not know how to change and work in that different environment. Now, when we think about it on this offensive end as a tactic, if I can utilize things like stopping, that's another dynamic. It's so confusing. You don't know what I'm doing. You're reading all these micro movements that are happening like this. It's so hard to maintain defensive composure and stay in front of players when they're really in an unhinged way of movement. Being effective is all about trying to stop the defense from being able to read your mind. And an easy way that we can do that is by working on our deception skills. Whether it's on the passing end with guys like Miloš Teodosic, who would drive and change the way that he's looking to throw players off and be very crafty with his pass, or even as another end of passing with guys like Nikola Jokic in my championship level passing video. He was being deceptive in his movements by, again, looking around but making the ball be another weapon. We need to be aware of this and utilizing our timing with things like slow versus go. They ain't gonna know what to do with you. Guys, I had so much fun breaking down Paul George's video. As always, big shout out to all the viewers out there who went and responded in my community tab. And I highly recommend if you're not paying attention to my community tab, get your life together, bro. Pay attention to what's going on there. It's a great way to stay in touch with your boy. Another way to do that is by also going ahead and checking out my Facebook page. I'm constantly putting videos up there about content that's going on and is being worked on. I've got a lot of things that are happening in the background, and I'm really excited to show you these projects that I'm working on. And the best way to stay in the know, above all else, is like and subscribe. Guys, I'm trying to hit my 10K milestone, and I could do with all the love and support from you beautiful people out there. But look, we've got a little bit of time until that happens. So until I see you next time, make sure you're looking after yourself, you take care, and be safe. All right. Peace.